Namaskar. My dear brothers and sisters, thank you for this opportunity to be together at this 7th India Ideas Conclave being hosted by India Foundation in order to reflect on Society 2.0, rebooting to Meta-era. Today, we are reflecting on gender, marriage, family, and religion 2.0. As active participants in this august body, we have been imagining freely and with deep interest how to reboot India 2.0 to Meta-era. We have been realizing in our rapidly changing world that as human beings, we have talked and listened intensely to all that is possible for us, these past 2 days. Today we should reflect and see whether all that is possible may or may not be justified in the context of ethics and morals which our religious traditions teach us. We have been realizing that in our rapidly changing world, that ours is not just a change of an epoch, but an epochal change. This change in attitudes and in human structures frequently calls accepted values into question. Many look forward to a genuine and total emancipation of humanity wrought solely by human effort. However, I do not wish to lament the present. My focus is far from return to nostalgia, that is, wanting to return to the past in order to ruminate the good old days, as it were. Religion is not the enemy of science and technology. Religion, science, and technology must walk together. Eternal truths which have been taught by our respective and revered religious traditions cannot be forgotten. Certainly, we need to update ourselves without throwing out the baby with the bathwater, so that our relation to the world and modern times is not distorted in any way. Let us not stop from learning how to live wisely, to think deeply, and to love generously. As a son of my mother India, it gives me immense joy to state that our reflection takes place during this year as we celebrate 75 years of our freedom, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. There is no doubt that contribution from all of Mother India's sons and daughters will make our India an even more Samruddha Bharat, a more enriched nation. We need to build our society of tomorrow without losing sight of yesterday and today. Let me ask, as a son of my mother India, is not the Indic experience based on life-giving sacrifice? Let us be ready to sacrifice our comfort and even our lives to ensure that we keep hold of our rich past in order to serve both the present and the future generations. So what is our society today? Efforts need to be made to help the mass media of communications become sources of new cultural progress of humanity and not a threat to our deepest riches. Real relationships with others with all the challenges they entail, now tend to be replaced by a type of internet communication which enables us to choose or eliminate relationships at whim. In today's globalized world, the media can help us to feel closer to one another, creating a sense of the unity of the human family, our Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which in turn can inspire solidarity and a more dignified life for all. We need constantly to ensure that present-day forms of communication are in fact guiding us to generous encounter with others, to honest pursuit of the whole truth, to service, to closeness to the underprivileged, and to the promotion of the common good. We must therefore recognize and understand the world in which we live, its expectations, its longings, and its often dramatic characteristics. So first, we must recognize that our family is also part of the environment. Let us not restrict the concept of family just to husband, wife, and 1, 2, 3 children. Human beings too are creatures of this world. Although this is not a place for us to divert from our theme today, we cannot ignore the effects on people's lives of environmental deterioration. The social dimension of global change include the effects of rise in new forms of social aggression and social decline. The fact is that the deterioration of the environment and society affects the most vulnerable people on the planet. It is also true that environmental deterioration and ethical degradation are closely linked. Technology is now transforming the face of the earth. Biology, psychology, and the social sciences not only bring people hope of improved knowledge in conjunction with technical methods, they are also helping men and women to exert direct influence on the life of social groups. These new conditions have their impact on religion. Second, let us look at the changes in gender, marriage, family, and religion. At the outset, let us understand the issue of gender equality. This concept is understood in different ways, but most people would believe that we are all created equal. Man and woman have the same dignity and are of equal value. The issue of homosexuality has increasingly become a matter of public debate. The LGBTQ community's inclusion in civil society is also gaining ground across the world. Naturally, an exhaustive treatment of the complex issue is not attempted here. It is unfortunate that homosexual persons have been and are the object of violent malice in speech or in action. On the contrary, we are taught that firmly and clearly we are taught that these persons must be accepted with respect, compassion, and sensitivity. Every sign, that doesn't mean giving them all the license to do what they want, but respect, compassion, and sensitivity, every sign of unjust discrimination in their regard should be avoided. At the same time, the well-being of the individual person and of human society is intimately linked with the healthy condition of marriage and the family. The welfare of the family is decisive for the future of the world. By that human act whereby spouses mutually bestow and accept each other, a relationship arises which by divine will and in the eyes of society too is a lasting one. A greater emphasis on personal communication between the spouses helps to make family life more humane. A growing need is felt that young people should be aptly and seasonably instructed about the dignity, duty, and expression of married love. The family is a kind of school of deeper humanity. Children should be so educated that as adults they can, with a mature sense of responsibility, choose their state of life. Third, the complexity of the family today. Let us look to the reality of the family today in all its complexity, with both its lights and shadows. Anthropological and cultural changes in our times influence all aspects of life and call for an analytical and diversified approach. A consideration needs to be given to the growing danger represented by an extreme individualism which weakens family bonds and ends up considering each member of the family as an isolated unit, leading in some cases to the idea that one's personality is shaped by one's absolute desires. Man and woman alike share equal responsibility from the start. Woman and man are marked neither by a static and undifferentiated sameness, nor by an irreconcilable and inexorably conflictual difference. Their most natural relationship is the unity of the two, a relational uniduality, as I would say. The worrisome spread of pornography and the commercialization of the body, which is fostered particularly by a misuse of the internet and reprehensible situations where people are forced into prostitution, cannot be ignored. The dignity of women still needs to be defended and promoted. We need to make concerted efforts, joining hands in dialogue of collaboration among all religions. The family is the foundation of society. In it, the various generations come together and help one another to grow wiser and to harmonize personal rights with the other requirements of social life. Public authority should regard it as a sacred duty to recognize, protect, and promote the family's authentic nature, to shield public morality, and to favor the prosperity of domestic life. The right of parents to beget and educate their children in the bosom of the family must be safeguarded. Here, we must acknowledge the sad fact that the traditional cultural and family values of our great mother India are under threat not just from inside our society. They are also threatened from outside, from the outside. Pope Francis, in his annual address to the diplomats in January 1922, rightly warned against what has often called the ideological colonization of cultures like our Indian culture. In this ideological colonization, global elites, especially in the West, use their power and technology to force an alien worldview on non-Western nations, erasing our local cultures and traditions. We often talk about how important it is to invest in our country's human capital to be successful in the meta era. But we must also redouble our efforts to defend our country's unique cultural capital, including our spiritual capital, to preserve and strengthen the greatness of who we have been and who we are today and who we should be tomorrow, even amidst accelerating global changes. And fourth, the word religion derives from the Latin root relegare, and it means to join, to connect, or to bring together. Ironically, today the word has become synonymous with division, separation, and an instrument for setting one apart from the other. The word religion was probably invented in order to bring a universal phenomenon under a common understanding. For example, in India, dharma has been the concept to describe the worldview. The general term religion applied to all different worldviews, which need to be positively understood as the source of the richness of any society. After all, it is only accepting the limitations of our concreteness that we can be rooted in truth. And it is only by being true to our own identity that we can become more universal. Religions do not exist in vacuum. In professing religion, a believer expresses her or his deepest aspirations and develops what is most profoundly her or his own. Her or his interiority, the sanctuary of his or her being upon which no one can encroach. Religious believers belonging to different religions have always existed alongside one another, all forming one human society. Many religious traditions have been learning throughout history that believers of all religions, each motivated by her or his respective religious precepts, need to respect and be respected, cooperate with one another, and promote peace and harmony, even in civil society, and thus work together for the common good of all citizens. Efforts of all religious believers are needed in order to build peace and harmony in society. All need to own the responsibility to unite and to work together so that it may serve as a guide for future generations to advance a culture of mutual respect in the awareness of the great divine grace that makes all human beings truly sisters and brothers. It cannot be emphasized enough that the edifice of peace is in jeopardy without serious commitment of all people to interreligious dialogue and to intensify relationships in good times as well as bad. A principal motive for being open to dialogue with people of all religions is the respect for the innate free nature of the human being. For believers, for believing is a free act. The dignity of the human person is a transcendental value always recognized as such by those who sincerely search for the truth. Failure to respect this dignity leads to various and often tragic forms of discrimination, exploitation, social unrest, and national and international conflicts. Respect for human dignity finds one of its expressions in religious freedom, which, if it means the right to choose one's beliefs about the meaning and purpose of life, is a fundamental freedom, and arguably it is the most important human right of all. In conclusion, amidst so many rapid changes, let us remain faithful to our own identity. At the same time, let us be open and appreciate our diversity, religious diversity, cultural diversity, social diversity, in order to transform the challenges of our times into opportunities. Finally, let us follow the path of fostering a culture of dialogue which at its heart is a matter of listening and reasoning, so that together we can develop a common vision for our great Mother India. Thank you very much.